Welcome back to the Ninja Archwan podcast. Today we are continuing our discussion of Chen Ling. This one focuses on Chen Ling's Bagua from his son's book. First, we discuss sort of the basic principles of Bagua that he lays out, and then a brief sort of um, description of each of his eight palm changes and their connection to the I Ching, as well as sort of how they are to be performed or what their martial flavor is, etc. So, hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting us. Take care of yourselves and be well.
Let's continue our look at the life of Bagua, Tai Chi, and Xingyi master Chen Ling. I think some of these quotes from the Bagua Swimming Dragon 8 Trigrams Palm book by his son Chen Ching could show some insights into the style and give us a sense of what it's all about. So Chen Ching talks about his father, this well-known martial arts leader and visionary. So it talks about his political career and his time fighting in the war against the Japanese and so on. But in terms of the martial arts, he says, "My father devoted the whole of his spare time and energy to Chinese martial arts. He went on a researching expedition throughout China, spending 6 years visiting numerous Chinese martial arts experts in the internal arts of Xingyi, Bagua, and Tai Chi. He thoroughly researched their theories, exquisite technique, and became very passionate and dedicated to promoting Chinese martial arts to build healthier people and a stronger nation." So the 6-year journey he goes on is where he gathers all the information that later he'll start compiling in books as part of the government effort to promote martial arts.
Right. So this is sort of the genesis of that, probably that combined form that he comes up with, right? I mean, he's learning all these different styles and putting them together in his head.
Like you were saying before, like there's this whole feeling that Chen Ling was just like the go-to guy for Chinese martial arts.
Yeah.
And so this journey must have been when he went on that quest to kind of get a big overview of things. Especially Nejiab, that seems to be his main passion. So, you know, he was part of the strengthening the national population movement of the time. So it says Chen Ling was greatly moved by foreign insults and felt he could somehow change this image with the spread of martial arts participation throughout the nation. He was indeed a visionary. So in 1941, so this is in the midst of the war, I guess, he was the chairman of a committee at the Nanjing Institute of Sport and Physical Culture, working to develop a curriculum for wushu texts and other educational materials. It took him more than 3 years to write more than 50 different kinds of standardized martial arts textbooks and 40 wall posters with illustrations. Sadly, they were all lost when the communists took over the mainland of China before they had a chance to be published and distributed. So he alone became a living depository of this valuable cultural treasure that traveled with him to Taiwan. Yeah, so this was eventually the communist government would create wushu in the same manner that he had gone about working to establish that.
I'm sure a lot of his work was adopted into that stuff later on.
Influenced it, and in some way, I'm sure the people he worked with or whatever carried it on to do the next thing.
Well, I know I talked about this at least in some Patreon stuff, but that he was the Olympic coach in 36, right? So he was the one who kind of came up with, like, I think the routines that they were going to do, you know, so that was kind of the first time that there were doing martial arts for, like, not the first time, but the first time they did martial art expeditions for the world, you know.
Right,
I mean,
on
it
the
wasn't
world stage,
they'd done it a lot in China, but I think that this is one of the first times that they went out into the world and said, you know, here's our thing. And so Chen Ling was like integral in coming up with like what they were doing and picking the team and all that, you know, so
presenting it to the world. So then he says, "My father trained people in martial arts until his passing, never refusing to help a genuine seeker and never accepting money for tuition. He established the 99 Health Club in Taiwan, a center where martial artists of all persuasions would meet, compare, and research the art he loved so much. He obviously had incredible people skills to maintain such a friendly environment for so long. I believe this is also a golden era in Chinese martial arts where through collaboration, friendship, and hard training, great progress was made in codifying and consolidating many practices. So swimming dragon 8 trigrams palm is a special martial art. It is one of the authentic Bagua systems. All right, here's the key points of practice. All right, tell me if you've heard this one before. The index finger of the higher hand lines up with the center of the circle. The thumb of the lower hand is pointed towards the ribs and is used to power and push the body forward.
Yep.
There you go.
There it
Check
is.
that one off the list. The upper body is straight and relaxed, walking smoothly and solidly. The upper body floats and the lower body does the work, I think is...
Yeah, I mean, he's just kind of like, these are sort of...
That's the meaning of that one. Walking forward or backwards is in as flexible a way as possible, maintaining a feeling of external expansiveness, but internally bound. So those seem like pretty typical of most internal systems. So then he gets a little more specific. So he's got some advice for the Bagua mind, the Bagua body, and the Bagua legs. And I think these are worth looking at because they definitely are to summarize a lot of the main stuff. So the first one is the mind is calm and alert like a cat about to pounce on a mouse. The eyes follow the fingers while walking around the circle. The chin is tucked in. You feel an indomitable spirit like no one can stop you. And then he uses that metaphor of the mind and the body, them being the army and the commanding general. That one comes up a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little different than the Tai Chi. It's like the legs and then the waist. And, the legs are the general. The waist is the commander. And the legs are the soldiers or whatever.
Maybe
but
you're right.
The same idea,
This one's just mind-body, so
Yeah.
it's just a shortened version. And talks about integrating them. But then he brings up the idea that seems to come from Ne Dan, internal alchemy practice. He says, fire dances up and water flows down, as water is heavy and fire is light. Use creative visualizations to imagine this reestablishment of elements within your body, creating perfect harmony in static or dynamic movement. So that reminds me of all the episodes we were doing about internal alchemy where the water and the fire and the body is interacting.
Yeah, where
and
you're
connecting.
doing that. I mean, he says visualization, but I think that might be a translational thing where, you're bringing energy up your spine, up the back of your body and then down the front of your body and up the back of your body as you're breathing. And that's kind of depending on the school, either your primary flow or your secondary flow of energy that you're working on.
All right, we'll finish with the Bagua legs here in terms of these principles. So, again, dragon body, monkey limbs. That's what we talked about earlier about the 5 dragon shapes. Animal shapes they have. So, the body's squiggly and smooth. The limbs are whippy and groping and grasping.
Right. I mean, again, I think it's just using animal imagery to kind of give you a sense of how you're supposed to move, because
you don't have a tight, stiff arm.
Yeah.
It's a whipping, whapping, strong arm, like a monkey arm.
Right. And I mean, if you've ever seen like a monkey just grab something and smash it,
Right.
it's kind of like,
There's a looseness that gives them power.
I mean, I think of it as just like, when you just pick up a fish or something and whack its head on a rock. It's that kind of just whap. Like
Primal.
There's just a certain
Crush
kind
this
of
thing
like.
out so I can eat it.
There's no, but it's not like you're raw. You're not like
there's
being
no anger involved.
Yeah, it's just whack. It's just this sort of like
Hungry. Whap.
efficient.
Yeah. No apologies needed. So the legs move as if a mill is pushed. So that
Right,
millstone
there's-
grinding.
Yeah, and there's that classic just. I think that actually has to refer. I mean, in some sense, is referring more to your back leg. That you're pushing off to take the step rather than throwing yourself forward, right?
Yeah, your legs are stuck to the ground with each step. There's energy moving
Well,
through.
and then your front leg is the one that sort of does the mud thing.
Right, because that's the next one. Knees bend as if stepping in a muddy pond. So there's the pushing of the millstone, and then there's the mud stepping
Yeah.
that sort of balance each other.
And it's that feeling like when you get your foot stuck in the mud, if you push it through, you won't lose your shoe.
Rather than pulling your heel up and sucking your
Right.
foot right out of the shoe. Which,
Also,
of course, we've all experienced
that
as kids.
feeling of, I mean, where it comes in like martial arts is if something is holding your foot back, if you try to like lean forward and pick up your heel, you don't have much leverage. If you sort of sink down and pick up your foot, you can kind of kick through, right? So this is the shingy half step, for example. He uses this, and so it's that thing of like you're essentially moving from your lower back, right? And so it's pushing your foot forward from your lower, that lower spine area.
Right. So getting your power from below rather than leaning
So it
above.
starts in your back leg, it goes to your back, and then it shoves out through your front foot. I mean, this is what Wang Jing referred to as fucking your foot, right? It's that projection of energy from your spine into
growing
your
the
foot.
leg. Yeah, that's the idea. So the next one, they're about sort of the toes of the foot and the ankle. So the toes lightly grasp the ground. The outward foot swings in, and then the ankles lightly brush together as your gait increases in pace. So there's the scissor legs concept. A lot of them talk about in the list of rules, and just the general mechanics of how you got to step. Basically, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and I think that's like alluding to the idea that when you start, your stance is going to be a little bit wider so that you're more stable, and that as you get better at it and go faster, you're able to bring your feet closer together,
Draw together,
and
stand together, and come apart.
Yeah, I mean, essentially you end up taking really short, tiny little steps rather than these big, long, wide ones, and it allows you to...
Yeah, faster has to be a little shorter.
Yeah, you move faster, but you don't really cover any more distance. But you stay integrated as you're moving faster rather than being disconnected and moving through space more.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like running in place. Like you can run really fast but not go anywhere.
True.
Yeah.
All right, so the very final instruction here. The energy flows inside in the same way that clouds float in the sky. So that's interesting to debate, because clouds flow smoothly and change shapes, I guess. Is that how energy flows in the body?
Well, yeah. I mean, again, I think you have to. That's one of those metaphorical things of like, how does a cloud move through the sky? Because it depends on the weather, Like sometimes it moves slow
Right.
and lumbering, and then sometimes it's going to move quick.
And here in San Francisco, I was yesterday watching the fog. The fog is rushing past you. It's just right in front of you.
Yeah, but so I again,
Maybe energy moves in all those ways.
right, and I think that it's the idea that much like a cloud shifting and producing rain or lightning or thunder or whatever, that is what your energy does. And also, there's a piece of it where, like, one of the metaphors for emotions is weather, right? That the way your mind and emotions will kind of shift and change, just kind of flow, and sometimes good, sometimes bad. It's that kind of thing where just let it flow through its natural change and it will kind of continue, right? Don't get fixated on it and try to force it to do something, and then like that kind of just allowing.
Right, you can't really control the clouds, huh? So that's another element of it. You're just letting it happen within you, ideally.
It's the wave hands like clouds is the one they use in Tai Chi, right? It's that, again, that idea of like just letting your hands feel light, but connected to something, right? Because a cloud is solidified, but not solid, right? Mm-hmm. It's not a full...
It has a shape.
Right, it has a shape, but it doesn't have...
substance, sort of,
yeah. Like you can't... It doesn't... It's only held together by its movement, in a sense, right? Like, if it moves in a different way, it can break apart. And so there's impermanence to it, I think, and that's that change, right? That like Bagua is just all about letting your body and your energy and your mind change with the situation and
Yep.
hopefully coming out with the best option.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
All right, so now we'll move on to a look at the 8 different palm changes of the swimming dragon Bagua system. So each of the palm changes has like a flavor of its own. So in this case, each of these is one of the trigrams of the I Ching.
Which is a common theme,
right.
but people tend to mix it up. I mean, so
Sometimes animals, sometimes motions. And like now in this case, theirs is oriented around, well, it's got a name and it's also got a trigram. So the first one is single palm change. As all Bagua systems begin with single palm
that's
change.
pretty standard.
Yeah, right. So the first change corresponds to the image of heaven. So that's almost always single palm change is associated with heaven.
That is usually,
that's one thing that's never any different.
But that's about as much as you can say.
That's all you can say.
Being consistent
Right.
with which palm change goes with which trigram.
So it says, this change is practiced first. The beginner needs to study this. You shouldn't move on to double palm change until you have all your movements down and a continuous and strong intention. And it says, once this change is mastered, a student should experience a reestablishing and alignment of their integrity and functional order of their chi. It's like this is supposed to like do something to your chi and like sort of unify you. That's the way I interpret
makes
that.
you healthy, essentially, right?
And like brings all your power, sort of focuses you, connects you a little bit.
Well,
become
I
the one.
think the idea is that you want to be relatively stable in mind and body and energy before you embark on something that's going to ramp those things up in ways that you've never ramped them up. So
Right.
that as any one of those things gets stronger, it's not going to either cause you problems or pull from the others, right? That you don't want your, in a sense, you don't want your strength of body to, override your ability to think or, whatever.
Sure.
Right? So it's like
Very
that,
balanced.
having just having a balanced sense of these different forces is kind of, that's again this major theme in internal.
So the martial
arts.
concept of this first palm change. So it says the fundamental principle of Bagua is a continuous flow of movement using various speeds and constant change of direction with the mind and body linked in a kinetic chain. Not unlike a swimming dragon, swinging its head and tail with unmatchable power and grace. So that's what first palm change is supposed to teach.
Well, that's that constant stability, continuous
There it
change,
is.
right? That like you got to be able to constantly move and change and do whatever you need to do, but somehow within those constant changes, there has to be something that keeps you from,
Stability.
falling apart. And
Right.
that's the hard part. It's easy to change. It's hard to change and not lose your structure.
No doubt, right? So then once you got that down, you go to double palm change, the second one. Now this one is connected to the element of fire. It manifests the energy of brightness. This change teaches the practitioner to cling or adhere to an opponent, even if they have defended themselves. You appear to use your eyes to look through the thumb and index finger as a viewfinder. This is called the tiger mouth. Using your peripheral vision and awareness, connected with your mind, eyes, and twisting body, your limbs will automatically know where to go. There will still be an imminent opportunity created somehow, somewhere. Your opponent will leave themselves open to your counterattack. So there's a lot in there.
Yeah, well, I think one thing that it's the idea that fire is hard to put out, right?
It's flickering and changing and moving.
Yeah, a spark will jump, a flame will lick to another tree or whatever. So there's this like, it's hard to grab fire. Like you can't get a hold of it, but it'll get a hold of you. And once it's on you, it's really hard to get. Once you're on fire, it's like
Unpredictable.
It's bad,
Yeah.
and you're stuck with it, right? And so it's that clinging nature.
That's danger,
to it.
man.
Yeah, Which when you think about Bagua and how it like wraps around people and like all that hooking and sticking and stuff. I mean, that's very kind of reminiscent of what he's describing, I think.
And I like to call it that peripheral vision thing of like single palm change might be more focused on the one, but double palm change means you're trying to keep everything in your gaze and really focus on that wider vision that the early bodyguard caravan guards would have to have had.
Right. It's you now. You got to worry. You're not just fighting one guy in a ring or on a battlefield. You're fighting and against multiple people by yourself. So it's like, there could be. Basically, it's so people don't flank you, right?
Yeah, and you have to be able to know right where to go without necessarily seeing everything.
I mean, that's essentially the big part. A big part of the circle walking is because if you're walking in a circle, you can see what's around you easier. That if you're looking straight, you have to turn your body to
turn your head
past. Maybe if you got a really loose neck, you might be able to get to like 120 degrees or something. Right. But you can't go all the way. Where if you just turn your body or move your feet, it's really easy to get that thing of being able to see behind you. So there's a practical piece to it, I think.
Right. Yeah, you're expanding your awareness in the second palm. So the third change is up and down changing palms.
All right, so now you're adding a vertical component.
Sounds like that, it, yeah. So this is the thunder palm change. It contains the attribute of shaking. This change is not unlike a clap of thunder that appears everywhere, uses the many directions available for martial application. Rather than meet an attack, a Bagua practitioner will evade their opponent with nimble footwork, left, right, up, down, forward, back, or spin, for a superior position, and then envelop the opponent, attacking with a flurry of palm strikes, low kicks, and throws. But boom! So that's the thunder clap effect. So when it says shaking, I think it's called duojin, where you shake your whole body. Shingy does it.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just that thing of like grabbing someone's arms, just
give him a yank. A sudden just whip pull. Yeah, it's an action. It's a feeling. Yeah, so that's thunder. And then I like how it says that you don't meet the attack. You evade them with nimble footwork. So each side, front and back, up and down. And then you add number 7, which is spin.
Well, and thunder is a yin thing in a sense, too. So it has that. It doesn't have a
solidity.
Yeah, there's nothing you can grab, or touch or feel. It's just. I mean, well, you can feel it, but it's not.
True, yeah.
It's a feeling that makes you. It's like a fear, not a
burn like fire.
Tactile feeling. It's an emotional feeling, right? Thunder makes you shit your pants. It doesn't make you, wet.
Sting. Yeah.
Right? Rain makes you wet. Like it's like so. Yeah,
and I like you end it with palm strikes, so that's like you approach the opponent with the palm strike, then low kick once you block their hands, then the throw if you can just grapple them there and fling them down. Seems to be a good Bagua strategy.
Yeah, again, I mean, it's that...
Come with a couple of palm strikes to get them all hyped up, then leg sweep, and then boom,
well, and also
grapple or body check.
The thing of doing various heights, right? I mean,
changing the height. That's the first thing they have.
That's a really big thing, especially when you're getting into multiple opponents, because if you're not going up and down at least a little bit, it's a lot easier for one guy to grab your legs and the other guy to knock you over, right? So if you have the ability to go up and down, at least you got a chance.
Yeah. So the fourth change is Green Dragon exposes its claws, which is another term you see associated with Cheng Tinghua Bagua. I think C.S. Tang's book was named that about Liu Jingru's form, but all of them have extends the claws, right, or reveals the claws, or
reference to that palm shape, I think.
Yeah. And so in this case, they're calling this the Kun trigram, receptiveness, related to the natural element of earth. So this one is all about yielding. This principle discusses the importance of the abdomen as being the source of real martial power, allowing, once your chi is centered, to freely emit the power both statically or on the move. So yeah, somehow coming out from maybe growing the claws out from the dantian on some level.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like just sort of doing that process of linking your dandian to your limbs,
Right.
or the other way around,
Reaching
really.
out. And then you can really freely emit power on the move or statically. So you can plant your feet, or you can still hit while you're moving, which is kind of a Bagua specialty.
Right, because if you're not linked and you try to hit something when you move, you'll disconnect or collapse.
So on to the fifth change. So here's White Snake flashes its fangs.
Okay.
This is the character of the abysmal and corresponds to the wind element. Contains the attribute of danger. So this is kind of the nasty one, it sounds like. Wind. Yeah, wind always has sort of a vicious characteristic, it seems like. Maintaining composure in the midst of something unexpected is the main principle of this change. This way you are always secure and responsive. From this position you have the capacity to intercept an opponent's strike, evade a kick or grab, and not be intimidated by a larger or stronger opponent. A simple low Bagua kick will change their statute immediately.
Well, I mean, that last part I think is just the idea that, every time you put your foot out could be a kick, and a low kick will, like you said, that will destabilize somebody, because no matter how big you are, your ankle joint's not going to be that strong. So, it's definitely not
support it from below.
It's not going to be stronger than someone's whole body, that's for sure.
Right.
So,
Yeah, so you maintain composure even in swirling, unexpected situations. You intercept. It's talking about intercepting and evading with this fifth palm change.
Well, I think that's, wind sort of whipping around.
Yeah, you're right. Wind just like changing.
Again, I mean, similar to the thunder or whatever. You can't grab the wind,
Nope.
right? But it can knock you down, right? And so
Right.
there's that.
So they try to grab you. You're evading the kick or the grab. And then using a low kick to lash out and just cut them down from
I mean,
below.
it could be a low kick, but it's that idea that you don't, like, when they attack you, you don't touch them, but then you hit them in a place they don't expect.
Right.
So.
That's vulnerable for a bigger, stronger opponent.
Because
knock them
what
down
is
their leg.
wind? Wind can creep through the smallest of cracks, right? It can get through that little rip in your clothes. It can get through that one crack in your hood.
Like a window that's cracked could cool the whole house.
Right. So once it's in there, it's like it's just So
Insidious.
It's like sneaky. And the other thing is, if you've ever been in a really
Amorphous.
really windy place for a long time, it kind of makes you crazy.
Oh,
a
yeah.
little bit, right?
Totally fucks with you.
Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's horrible.
especially hot wind will kind of make you right. So there's that thing.
You
of
gotta
it,
get out of it.
it like fucks with your etheric field
Pretty
in a way.
much,
And so
yeah.
that there's a piece of it where it's very confusing. Right?
Yeah, it leaves you just feeling twitchy.
Lost,
Yeah. All right, so on to the sixth change. Giant rock spreads its wings. Displays the principle of stillness and the element of a mountain. This principle relates to the attitude of a silent, calm mind that creates a mountain composure in the body by sinking the chest, waist, shoulders, and elbows. From this position, the spirit of vitality may rise to the crown of the head as the front palm extends forward, allowing the chi to transmit and appear in the hands and fingers.
Well, this is that idea that the rising up comes from the sinking down, right? So the dropping of your chest into your danjian is what creates that rising energy.
So a little bit of a dropping, then bounces
right, and then
back
if
up.
it keeps rising up, it'll go out your limbs, right?
Mm-hmm. So the spirit of vitality rises to the crown of the head.
I mean, not always, but frequently, mountain has like some kind of a piercing upward
lift, raise the
motion.
knee, poke.
Yeah, something, because it's
More than likely.
Well, it's that idea of like a mountain peak rising up, and it's like tectonic plates pushing the mountain up.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, and I like, and again, the spirit of vitality. Again, we're touching on another one of these majorly important Taoist alchemical
Right, there's
principles of letting the chi rise to the top of the head to the crown.
Which is it's just a hint towards it. It's
Yeah.
not like, it's not like a big deal. Like,
Right.
just don't keep
And
it.
the other action that's
keep it in
associated
mind.
with the macrocosmic orbit, the idea of taking the chi and projecting it out the hands and fingers.
Right, there's your large orbit.
So you're starting to see them tap back into this alchemical nature of the Bagua, which becomes even more so in the seventh palm change. White monkey presents a peach. This one has the principle of joyousness and the lake element. So here's the martial principle. It says, to bring effect to this principle, whilst walking the circle, lightly close your mouth and rest your tongue on the upper palate, connecting the acupuncture meridians Ren channel on the front and the Du Mai channel on the back, allowing them to combine and establish cyclical equilibrium throughout your body.
Right, so now you're doing the microcosmic orbit.
By doing the Ren and Du meridian circuit.
So this is the up the back, down the front thing. Yeah.
And so this is the lake palm change. You're doing the microcosmic orbit while you're walking around. He says this facilitates your chi to move smoothly, efficiently, allowing the spirit to rise to create a harmonious but powerful and integrated movement. Again, the spirit rising.
Mm-hmm. That's a big one.
That's always part of all these chi practices, is to somehow gather the chi and then let it rise into the upper
that
non.
7?
That's 7.
Yeah, so there's something about 7 which seems to be connected to that. Like, it's sort of the one that allows you to connect to the final stage, right? So it's the completion of everything that's you and your sort of personal thing, and then you're from there are able to kind of jump into the great beyond, the great stillness, right? So there's a certain, like, I don't know.
So in terms of the energy bodies, the 7th energy body.
Right, but even in just the sort of the alchemical side of it, right? You need to have that, like, completion of Ren and Du and everything before you can do the final stage of, like, the central channel and all that, right? So it's like you kind of, I don't know. It's just like taking it through the level, the different Neigong or Neidan practices through different changes, right? So it's like as you're going through the different changes, you're adding a deeper level of...
Right. It's interesting. Yeah, this set seems to have that progression built into it.
Rather than, like, trying to learn the Neigong as a whole and put it into all of your movements, right?
Yeah, it's kind of nice. So each new palm you learn a new little alchemical technique to try with it, and you could probably apply it to all the other ones.
Right, but once you do, I'm sure. Well, and that's how you would get the multiple changes, I would assume, right?
So the 8th change is 8 immortals crossing the sea. The character of penetrating and the element of water. So the water palm being here, the 8th palm change. So it says, this principle compares the paradox of a Bagua practitioner and the subtlety of water. It contains a gentle and soothing nature whilst bathing, but an unstoppable momentum and force when flooding. When you throw an opponent using Bagua principles, the subtlety of your touch should be in contrast with your intention. The skill of this change is to draw your opponent close, similar to the gentleness of water on the skin, whilst bathing, and then to unleash the torrent of your force and intention. So you have a gentleness of touch, even though your intention is quite violent. It's like an inverse of each other.
You're like enticing them in, and then once you get them in, you're like, chop, 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 chop.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's that,
so
like...
your touch is super subtle, but then you use a slamming wave once you get a hold of them.
So they get lulled into feeling safe, and then you hit them with the tidal wave.
He keeps talking about whilst bathing.
That's funny.
So he's like, nothing could be more relaxed than just bathing.
Right.
You know, you're safe. You're just...
Well, this is what, like, the when they had that big tsunami in Thailand, some people were, like, at the beach and didn't know what was going on. Geez. And they're like, oh, look, look. And it was like, because as the water's receding out, it's like, it's calm and it's nice, But when that wave comes back, shit. So, yeah. Water's tricky, man.
Yeah, this one's, it's interesting that they end the palm changes with water as their penultimate one. it kind of makes sense because Bagua is so watery in
Right,
nature, and that
especially this
swirling,
that
twirling,
swimming. I
and
mean, like you said, they call it the swimming dragon.
yeah,
So
right. The swimming
it's
dragon set, so maybe that's
that
the perfect
idea of like
finish.
the highest level is going to be that sort of, or as Lug referred
Underwater
to it, that
swimming.
smooth palm level where
Mm.
things begin to be super liquid and just changey and yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting set. I was thinking how surprised I was that there was so much Taoism mixed in with it, considering he was like a government official
Right.
guy or whatever. But it seems very uh, mysticism is interwoven into it. Um, and so actually, he ends with a picture of the eight immortals of Taoism on the boat floating around.
Nice.
Han Chung Lee and Iron Crutch Lee and all the different immortals. It says, revered by Taoists and a popular theme in Chinese culture, the eight immortals are mythological characters that lived in the Tang Dynasty and used their varied magical powers to overcome evil. Their leader, Lu Dongbin, nicknamed Pure Yang, created a famous sword form that was learnt by Chen Panling. So that's the connection to Lu Dongbin, the sword saint that we've
Right,
often
we talked about a
talked
lot
about
with
over the years.
Baiwa's book for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, so
Yeah, he's an alchemist, also a martial artist, so he always pops up in the internal martial arts world, and it sounds like Chen Panling practiced his sword form.
that's pretty cool.
Nice. Well, that was
All right, man.
good getting to know Chen Panling a little bit.
That was a good one. Yep.
Hey folks, this week on the Patreon we discussed Zhang Feng, another Bagua practitioner, his book where he talks about the method of the microcosmic orbit and how that connects to Bagua Zhang. So check that out. It's $5 a month for the regular membership. $10 a month gives you the entire archive. All right, thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves and be well.